let's do an intro real quick about what this is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone.
Hey.
So, I'm Bethany.
I'm Ken.
And we are definitely not definitive.
Definitely not definitive.
Definitely not definitive.
Hey, little bit. Knock it off. So, you know what? Our dog's gonna be in the background. It's just gonna happen.
We are putting our complete nerddom to use by ranking our favorite nerd TV shows, films, whatever. And we say nerd with affection.
Yeah,
because
for sure.
we are nerds. So we're starting with the Marvel Universe.
MCU, baby. MCU.
MCU.
We're just gonna rank all the movies starting from Iron Man all the way up to Endgame, and we're gonna continue on past that.
It started for us when we were driving home from work one night and just decided, having seen all of them, how would we actually rank them?
My fiance suggested, you know what? We should do like a score sheet and we should rank these movies based on this score sheet.
And kind of take points of what we think goes into a good action movie, what maybe matters to us, what we look for.
And now you know why I love her and fell in love with her. It's one of the many reasons.
Because we are super nerds. We've discussed
Not for
possibly...
super nerds. I don't know if I give us that much credit. I mean, I think that, you know, we're dorks maybe. I'd say dorks is probably a better term than nerds because, you know, I think we're dorks.
Okay, so we're dorks. With that in mind, these are my rankings for Iron Man.
Like I said, this is definitely not definitive, but these are our rankings.
Our first subject is the lead male and lead female likability.
How likable is Iron Man?
I gave Iron Man a 2.
A 2. Now, what does a 2 mean? 2 means I'd like to grab a beer with him or her.
He's a tough one to rank because he ends so differently than how he begins. And I think you kind of have to take all of him into account when you're ranking him.
Tony Stark, he's a funny guy. You know, you pick up the check, so that'd be cool because he's rich.
Tony Stark at the beginning is probably not someone I would touch with a 10-foot pole. I think he's a douchebag. He's incredibly arrogant. He's cocky and rich and just such a stereotype of the kind of person who I wouldn't want to spend any time with. That being said, he ends in a very different place, and it's clear he grows. It's clear that he has heart, that he can care for other people, and that he's not the egomaniacal narcissist that he comes across as in the beginning.
Pepper Potts, I gave her a 1.
I'm sorry, she was a 1.
1 means she's kind of boring. And in this film, she kind of is.
She's perfectly pleasant, Pepper Potts.
Lead male, female bangability. So, we're going to do both.
Iron Man, I gave him a 3.
I gave him a 0.
I feel like he's very well experienced, as we know in the film.
It's just because I think he's a selfish lover.
So if nothing else, after enough drinks, maybe he could teach me a thing or two and a trick in the bedroom.
Now for Pepper Potts, I give her a 1.
It was a no thanks, I'm good. Nothing against Gwyneth Paltrow. Obviously she's very pretty.
She's kind of boring, so I feel like, I don't know, that might translate to the bedroom.
I feel like if you're gonna get me to get in bed with a woman, you gotta have something special.
Lead male, female relatability. For Iron Man, I gave him a 1. I know some people like that, but I wouldn't call them friends.
I gave both Pepper Potts and Iron Man a 2.
Pepper Potts, her relatability, I gave her a 2.
I think Iron Man, who he is in the beginning of the film, is...
kind of a douche.
Next is the villain.
And Obadiah's main goal is power and money.
How many people does the villain's end goal affect? This is where I know I differed from my fiance.
I gave it a 1. It only really affects the hero.
He's a maniac, and he sells weapons.
I mean, if Obadiah wins and the Iron Man suit gets sold...
The world's health and happiness is at stake if he actually gets what he wants in the world. So, for that reason, I gave it a 3.
How strong is the villain compared to the hero? I gave him a 0.
A 2.
He's still just the lesser man.
When I look at Tony Stark as a man, and I look at Obadiah as a man, Obadiah is significantly weaker.
Not as smart as Tony Stark. He just basically uses Tony Stark's brilliance to get ahead in life.
He does make a really, really difficult Iron Man type suit that is 3 times as large as Tony's.
Even though he builds a bigger suit in the end, I feel like...
I think he's equal to the hero, because I think where he's lesser than Tony, he compensates with stronger weaponry.
You gotta make up for something maybe? Maybe tinier or something else.
Do you care about the villain? Not at all, except that I really want Tony Stark to win. So for this, I gave him a 1.
I gave it a 2. He's annoying enough that I wouldn't mind seeing him dead.
I think Obadiah is a little bit one note.
He's a backstabber, and he's smug, and he's just annoying, and I want to punch him in the face.
And that's my end goal for him.
Villain bangability.
We're probably going to guess where this one's going.
Yeah. If I'm not going to have sex with Robert Downey Jr., I'm not doing it with Jeff Bridges in this one, sorry.
It's definitely a 0.
No thanks, I'm good. He gets a 0. So plot, because I forgot to do my plot. So we both had the plot as a 2.
It's entertaining, but it is predictable.
For the reasons that you listed.
Male hero, male villain, damsel in distress. Oh no, what's gonna happen? Like, we haven't seen this for centuries in storytelling.
Female empowerment.
What role do women play in the movie?
This gets a 0. It almost got a negative while I was watching it.
Obviously, Tony Stark is a playboy.
It hit probably, rock bottom as far as female empowerment when Tony Stark and his buddy are in the plane drinking and watching the stewardesses as a strip club turns into his airplane. It's like, am I watching Iron Man or am I watching Entourage?
That being said, for me, Pepper Potts salvaged this category.
Pepper Potts at the end presses the button to save Tony Stark.
At the end of the day, she helps the final outcome of the movie. It's in a weak way.
It wasn't her idea. All she had to do was press a little button. I mean, Tony Stark was the one that told her what to do, so...
It's not anything that makes me feel empowered as a woman when I go to see this, or feel, like, strong and,
That's all a girl can do. Oh, I can push a button. Ooh.
So I gave her a 1.
Soundtrack. So the soundtrack gets a 1 for me.
I gave soundtrack a 2. I think that the songs that stick out in my mind from the film are songs that, like, they pump you up, they get you motivated.
It had some AC/DC in the beginning. I liked that.
Humor. Obviously, since we are Marvel maniacs, my fiance and I have seen these movies quite a few times.
Basically, every time we laughed, we smiled, we giggled, we chuckled, we gave a little tick on a piece of paper. And for me, those ticks added up to 20.
For me, I gave it a 12. I'll admit, I think the robot took at least half of those. That robot was amazing.
Visual effects.
Visual effects, I gave it 2.
I gave it a 2.
I think there were 1 or 2 scenes that looked pretty cool.
When Tony Stark is there and he's like, I bring you the Jericho, and the bombs go off, and like...
Terrifying glory, I guess you would say.
Dialogue. So dialogue, this is probably one of the highest scores. Dialogue got a 3 out of me. 3 out of 4.
I give dialogue a 2. I think there were some quality, memorable one-liners.
It was sharp, it was clever, it was witty. It starts off right away, very, very fast paced. In the Humvee, when he's talking with the soldiers, there's a lot of little jokes, and you get right away, okay, we get who Tony Stark is.
Love story. I gave the love story a 0.
So this is where we kind of disagreed. I gave the love story a 2.
I think its sole function is that it's there because Hollywood demands it.
The classic rom-com, they hate each other at first. Well, they don't really hate each other at first, but maybe it's not a classic rom-com. But I still think it's good. I don't know, I'm sticking with my 2. I think it's believable at least. I think it's,
I think later Iron Mans give us more reason to believe that they're a couple.
Action sequences. This one might be a little bit controversial because we take the number of action sequences and then we times it by a score that we give it. So if a movie has a lot of action sequences in it, it's going to bump up the score a little bit higher. Now these are superhero movies, so they're action movies. So they should have action scenes, so those action scenes should boost it up more.
My fiance and I agreed there were 4 action scenes, and my ranking was a 2.
I gave a 2 overall.
Which means there are 1 or 2 fun scenes. Overall score for action scenes is 8 because we take the number of action scenes times it by our score. So 4 times 2 is 8.
Heart. What kind of heart and soul does this movie have?
I gave Heart a 3, which the ranking title for that is 3. Got a little misty-eyed, but it could have been allergies.
I gave it a 1. It had some sweet moments, 1 or 2.
I think Tony Stark's journey from who he was to where he ends up, I think you have to have a lot of heart in the film to make that journey and make that transition and have your audience buy into it.
Side characters. Okay, so my total side characters, we took our score and we divided by the number of side characters. So my total score was 3, and there was 3 side characters, so they only got a 1. You put a lot more value on the side characters.
I did. My total side character score averaged out to be a 3.
So let's start with Yetsin.
His dying words about going to be with his family and how he calls Tony Stark a man who has everything and nothing.
Mm.
I think he plays a key role in changing who Tony Stark is. Or at least allowing Tony Stark's ego to get the heck out of the way so he can be a decent guy.
Exactly, which is, I think that he's only there for, you made my point, he's only there for Tony Stark. He's only there to make Tony Stark more relatable, more redeemable. He's only there to help Tony Stark become a better person and say that, like, oh, you know, remember Yetsin? Yeah, that guy, he changed my life. Good old Yetsin. He gets a 1.
I give Jensen a 4, which is there is no movie or plot without him.
So for Rowdy, I gave him a 0.
A 3.
If you take away him from the movie or the plot, nothing really happens.
However, he is our only point of view in the military world.
See, I don't think we need, like, the military's perspective in this movie. I don't think, you know, it's just like, oh, you know, what's Tony's link to the military? And, like, we need, like, a good guy in the military to show that the military's not all bad. They're not all evil and about everything. We both agree on the robot, so the robot was great.
But he's a robot, and his only point of purpose is to bring some comic relief. I think he brought tons of comic relief, arguably maybe the most, but his purpose was humor and heart, and I think he delivered on that. But unfortunately, with our ranking system, a 2 is what qualifies for there not being much humor in the film, or being responsible for bringing the humor to the film.
With all that, my score ended up being 50.
So that's it. Taking all of my scores and totaling them, I got a score of 51 for Iron Man.
Is that a good score? I don't know. This is the first time we're doing it. So it could be a high score, it could be a low score. I will say that when we ranked Iron Man, we ranked it in our top 10 without doing a scorecard sheet. So it'll be interesting to see where the other movies rank and how close it is.